A wna i ffygwynidog ddatganiad am y camau sydd ar gael i Lywodraeth leol I atal cofrestru ail gartrefi fel busnesau.
If a property is a second home, it is classified as a domestic dwelling. The registration of businesses is not in itself devolved.
I was in Rhosneigr at a coffee morning recently, and a group of ladies who were busy making me a cuppa at the time said, can we have a meeting to discuss, or can we have a public meeting actually, to discuss the red bins issue? I wasn't sure what they meant, so they explained, when people register their holiday homes as businesses, they have their domestic bins changed for business ones, red ones. There are more and more of them in the village, and it's wrong, they're not paying their taxes. Now, in November 2018, the former First Minister told me he didn't believe there was a loophole here. The Finance Minister, Rebecca Evans, also said, I'm not sure that I would agree that there's a loophole in the law. Let's have a look at the definitions of loophole. The Cambridge Dictionary says, loophole, a small mistake in an agreement or law that gives someone the chance to avoid having to do something. And the Collins Dictionary says a loophole in the law is a small mistake which allows people to do something that would otherwise be illegal. And that's the point here. Certainly, it should be illegal to buy a second home and then be able to avoid paying the taxes that other full-time citizens of that same community do have to pay and still expect to receive the same services. What the red bins story tells us is that this is becoming more and more visible and that people are getting angrier and angrier about it. Now, if government won't agree that there is a loophole here, will you agree that there is a small mistake in legislation currently that has consequences that may well be unintended, but that has to be addressed in the name of fairness and in the name of providing local authorities much needed revenue that is otherwise lost?
So I take the point the member's trying to make, but I don't think it is a loophole within any of the definitions you've just said, and that's because it's intended, and a loophole is an unintended consequence, and actually this is an intended consequence. Just to be clear how it works, because I think there's a great deal of misunderstanding amongst people about how this exactly works. So when somebody acquires a property, they have to class it as a dwelling or as a business. If they class it as a dwelling, then it's a second home if it's not occupied all the time, and then it's subject to the council tax system prevalent in that authority. Some authorities have doubled the council tax on second homes, others have actually halved it, depending on their local circumstances and what they're trying to achieve. That's a matter for local discretion, and they can do what they like. What you're describing is where somebody acquires a property and then says it's not a domestic property, it's actually part of a business, and they're letting it out as self-catering or whatever. There are strict rules about what they have to do that, and they have to apply through the valuation office. They must complete the forms and provide documentary evidence of the property made, the letting criteria, and the VOA reviews the evidence before making a change to the lists, and then it's a registered business. Only 2 properties are allowed per registered business to count as a small business. So if you're a small business, you can't have more than 2 properties, and if you're a small business with 2 properties, you can apply for small business rates relief. Well, a holiday home is the same thing, it's still a business, whatever you call it.
The Minister is seeking to provide you with an answer, Rhina Bjorwer.
So if it's not being let out, and it is classed as a small business, and what you're saying is it's not being let out, it's just being used as a second home, and the person has done that, that's a fraud. So that's a criminal offence and would be prosecuted. We have asked, as a result of something Sean Gwethley asked me to do, all authorities in Wales for any evidence of that, and we have not been provided with any. And we've asked the Valuation Office to conduct an audit of the ones that they're aware of, and they have not come up with a single one that hasn't legitimately changed across and hasn't been able to provide the evidence necessary to sustain that. Now, I'll say it again. If you've got evidence that that's happening, let's have it, and I'll do something about it. But so far, at this point in time, we have anecdotes of all sorts, including in my own authority and everywhere else, but we have no actual evidence at all that that's actually happening.